So the first video I've ever made on this channel, ever in the world, was of me building a Scandinavian yard game called Mölkky. And this video is also that, but this time around I'm doing it as a wedding gift for some family, and I'm looking to kick it up a notch. So the first version of this set, I just went with softwood, and this time around I decided to go a little more substantial and went with 3/4 inch white oak that you can get from any big box store. So the first step was to glue 3 sticks together into one big old blank, and I did that twice to make sure I had enough material for all the pins. Once the blanks were together, then I just zipped one side through on the joiner and then ran it through the table saw just to square it up. At that point, I sent them through the table saw again, this time to whack off the corners at a 45. But I actually wasn't super happy with how that looked at the end of the day, bro, because I want these to be like pretty symmetrical. So I chose to send them through the table saw again to hit the 4 remaining sides, so that all 8 sides are going to be the same. So now I'm happy with the material. I start cutting these down into smaller blanks of 2 pins per blank, and the reason I'm doing it that way is because I need to use stop blocks for all the pins so that everything stays the same size. From there, I turn the saw to a 45-degree angle, and I cut these roughly in half to get that final pin shape. These ended up being a little bit smaller than the first set. The standard size is around 2.5 inches in diameter, and these ended up being like around 2.25. If you haven't watched the first video, this piece is called the skittle, which is the thing that you throw at the pins, in case you didn't know. Now that I got all 12 pins cut to shape, I set up a stop block and cut them down to their final length. The pins ended up being 6 inches long, and the skittle is 8.5. Next, I equip my chamfer, 1/4 inch chamfer, into my trim router. Then I just do a little zip around all of the bottoms of each pin and the ends of the skittle. And then I just try to match the tops, shaping them with an orbital sander. I think I'm using like 80 grit right here. So all the pieces are done and sanded down to 220. At that point, I stack it all up and measure it so I can get the dimensions to build a little crate to put all the pieces in. So at this point, it was time to add the numbers to each pin, and to do that, I just masked on a stencil. I actually got these stencils from Michael's for like $9, which was pretty perfect because they give you enough numbers to do like a whole set for Mölkky, like double digit and single digit. So worked out pretty good. Ideally, you'd probably want to use like a laser engraver, but I don't have one of those yet. The only problem with it is there's a little bit of overspray on some of the numbers. It's hard to like mask them completely, so I had to go back and just hand sand a little bit more to clean some of the pins up. So now it's time for finish, and I chose to go with your garden variety Watco Danish oil natural finish because I think these look nice and I don't really want to darken them up at all. Also it's easy, it says right on the can. So I slathered on a first coat and let them sit there for a good 15 to 20 minutes, came back, reapplied a second coat, 15 to 20 minutes, wiped off the excess, and then left him next to a fan, moving air over him overnight. Now it's time to build a crate, and to do that I used a piece of cedar that I had laying around. I think it was like 6 inches wide by 3/4 inch thick or so. So I cut the sides first, and then I cut the length for all of the slats. The dimensions I measured for the crate turned out to be 6.25 inches wide by, I believe it was 10.5 inches long. That's the inside dimension. Then moving back to the table saw, I ripped the slats down to 1.5 inches. Flip all those on their sides and then cut them roughly in half, and then just trim off the excess on the wider of the 2 pieces. Now that the pieces are all done, at this point, it's just a matter of slapping it all together. So I apply a little bit of glue to each slat on the ends, clamp that to the sides, and then just fasten it with some brad nails. In terms of spacing, I just kind of eyeballed it. I was able to get close enough without having to use any kind of a spacer. Once the crate was finished, then I just gave it a hand sand down to 220. So you can see the first set has actually been ran through its paces pretty hard. The skittle itself actually broke in half twice, even after blasting a couple lag screws through it. Bit of a poor design, poor material choice, so I'm pretty sure this one's going to last a lot longer. If you haven't seen the first video, I'm going to link to that in the end card at the end of this video, and it's also going to be down in the description. So with that, I wanted to leave you with a little bit of footage of us playing the game itself. So please enjoy that, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Wouldn't that be funny if I just missed all?
Over here somewhere.